We have one client right now we're working with that she's working with a huge brand. And the reason why they booked her is because she's been a regular on Good Morning America, because we've gotten her on Good Morning America. That's the reason why they're working with her. I've gotten 7-figure brand deals because I've been on the Today Show. Brands care. Speaking engagements care. If you're trying to get a book deal, they care.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Shane Sams Show. This is where I just hang out with my friends, and my friend Lauren is on the podcast today. Lauren Cobello, what's going on? What are you doing?
Hey, we couldn't even get started. We were laughing too much.
That was the longest I've ever seen anyone try to make their microphone screwed into a table. We were.
Yeah.
Have you ever been mid podcast and your microphone just fall off your desk?
Yes.
Has that ever happened to you?
Yeah, that's why I'm like, this needs to stay on, because it's happened many times.
Yeah, I'm in my guest bedroom. I record here when I record at home, and every time I come in here to record a podcast, I don't know if my kids time it, but they steal the cords on my lights because they're the same cords that power their iPhone 15s or whatever.
Of course.
And so I can't. I just always come in and I'm like, I don't know what my lighting's going to look like today. I could look like I'm in the witness protection program. We might not have lighting at all. So that's how it's doing. Well, what you've been up to some cool things. You've had a big shift, man. You've got this new PR agency, and obviously you're the PR wizard. I love it when you send me messages like, "Hey, do you want to go on this TV show? Hey, do you want to go on this TV show?" So for everybody listening, tell everybody about you and what you do online.
Yeah, so I'm the founder and CEO of Leverage with Media PR. I've been, in the entrepreneurial space for 18 years now, and before starting my agency, I was a personal finance TV personality, and I was on the Today Show, Dr. Oz, GMA, most recently a regular on the Rachael Ray show for 5 years. I did personal finance television. I had a website. I had a brand. I had a couple podcasts. That's how me and Shane met. And I started an agency a couple years ago working with people to help launch their books. So we work with nonfiction entrepreneurial authors. We help them launch their books and build brands off of books. So super fun. I love it.
Yeah. 18 years, man. I've been in the game 14 years, and all this madness. You've been doing this 18 years.
18.
Did you just start blogging or something? How in the world? What was that, 2008?
It was 2007, actually. Yeah.
Jeez.
I started a blog spot. Doing
did we have internet in
yes, I think we did. Gosh. I think I put my son on a treadmill, and that's how we fired it up, the modem. So yeah, no, 2007 is when I started. 2006, 2007. I had taken a coding class in college and just kind of learned how to do it. And at that time I was trying to get out of debt and teaching coupon seminars, and was like, hey, I can figure out how to make money doing this. It's not that hard. 18 years later, and
simple, not easy. Simple, not easy. Yes.
So I'm on my third business now. I had 2 companies. One was with my now ex-husband, still amazing friend of mine, Mark. We had a personal finance company together, and then I had a personal finance brand myself that I built to 7 figures, sold that, and then have the PR agency, which teaches people how to do what I've done the past 18 years.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I remember hanging out. We hung out one time in Texas at a FinCon event. And I was just so I'm always fascinated at the paths people take, because we get in our heads and we're like, well, this is the way I did it. That's how you do it. And then you look at somebody okay, you started a blog and you end up on TV.
Yeah.
That's madness. How did you end up on television the first time? Because you didn't set out probably to just get on TV, did you? Or did you? I don't know how you did that.
No, I actually didn't. So it actually was kind of funny. So I started doing seminars, I was teaching coupon seminars, right? Back when I started was when that extreme couponing show was huge. So the extreme couponing show was super huge. So I got started doing that and teaching coupon seminars at my local newspaper, because I had met somebody in front of my grocery store who was selling papers. And I was like, how do you make money doing this? And he's like, oh, I get $10 per subscription. And I'm like, will you come to my seminars and sell papers? Thinking that was like a good, and then I'm like, wait, no, can I sign up to sell papers? And so I started selling papers and getting $10 per person that signed up because the coupons are in the paper, right? Well, back in the day they were.
Oh.
So that's how like I started making money off of my seminars. Well, the paper then learned about me doing that. They wanted me to write a column. Then the local TV stations saw me in the paper, and then they wanted me to come on air to talk about it. So that's how I got started on television. And I had never like thought about going on TV before, but once I got on it, I loved it. And then it just kind of became a ripple effect. And then I started doing a lot more. I had a weekly segment on my local television show for a couple of years. Then they started asking me to co-host because I was like so good at it. Apparently, so I started like co-hosting the show when the hosts were out. And then, oh my gosh, this is a funny story. The first time I went on national television, I actually saw something on social media from the Dr. Oz show. Like, hey, we're looking for a mother-daughter who have a great relationship to come on the show to talk about it. And I'm like, oh, I'll go and answer this call. Me and my mom have a great relationship. This way I can get to know the producer. So I answered that tweet. That got me in the audience of the Dr. Oz show. I hit it off with the producer. That's how I became a regular on the Dr. Oz show.
Wow. Isn't that crazy? Like, and I was actually coaching somebody yesterday because they were talking, basically they were at the point in, they're kind of a speaker and they were in their space and they were like, kind of like, should I go on podcasts? Should I have my own podcast? Should I do these things? Like, can I really add value? Is anybody ever going to listen? But creating content is the first step to almost anything. Like even the seminars you did, you showed up and created content. You started writing the local newspaper article. You went on the little show to kind of wet your chops, like when I started this speaking at this big company that I spoke for the last 4 years, like the only reason they even knew about me was because someone showed the owner of the company one of my podcasts.
Right.
Like it wasn't like, it's just making your own stuff, like at least get you ready so that when you go on the Dr. Oz show, it wasn't your first time ever just showing up on the Dr. Oz show. You actually had some practice at it,
Exactly. I could say I've been on television for years. This is what I talk about. Here's my podcast. Here's my website. It has 1 million views a month. I co-host the show. This is what I can do, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, awesome. Come on.
How nervous were you though that first time you went on Dr. Oz? You had to have been nervous. Like that's insane. Like that's a big deal, man.
I was more excited than I was nervous.
Really?
I was really excited. Yeah, I felt honored, and so I saw it as a stepping stone. Anytime, and with the clients that I'm working with now in our agency, I always see television, podcast appearances, anything that I'm doing as a piece to the strategy to the end goal. So whatever that is, right? And I always saw it as a piece to the strategy to build my brand, to give me more credibility, to give me more trust, right? So if I put myself in front of the Dr. Oz audience, if I put myself in front of my local audience, if I put myself in front of this podcast audience, it gives me that much more credibility than if I don't do anything, right? And so I always saw it as a stepping stone to whatever that next phase of my business was. So I was always strategic, but I also, I think a lot of people like come into like, what should I do? And I'm always like, just do everything, do anything you possibly can. Even if you feel like you're too big or like important, like throw that out the window because you never know who you're going to meet in the green room, in the dressing room. I've met the most amazing people in the smallest opportunities. And those, just stay humble and like keep moving. And I think that's always been like one of my mottos.
The green room thing is fascinating. This is why I love what you do, because it literally is a green room for like TV shows and stuff like that. And like speaking gigs, like backstage is crazy. Like once you get backstage, it's just madness who's walking through there sometimes. Like I'll be sitting, I remember when I spoke at my first big event and I just looked over and I looked at the marquee, the lineup, and it was like, I was looking for when I was going to go, right? And I was reading down through it, and before me was Miss Universe, and after me was Tim Tebow, the quarterback.
You're
And
like,
I'm
oh, I'm
like,
kind
and
of a
then
big deal.
and it said Shane Sam's in the middle. Well, actually, I was like, is that a death trap? Should I be? Is anyone going to care what I have to say? But they did. Everyone liked it. It was fine.
Yeah.
But like, even like the smaller events, like I just spoke a couple months ago at Dustin Heiner's real estate
Oh, I
conference.
love Dustin.
He's amazing. Yeah,
Hmm.
he was on podcast recently too. And like, backstage there was even super more interesting because there were some cool people there, met a couple cool speakers. Do you know Marlon Smith? You remember Marlon Smith before? He's a
I
great guy.
I I I believe I have, yes.
Yeah, he's a speaker. He works for the Tony Robbins Foundation.
Mhm.
We hit it off, just a great friend to bounce ideas off of. And then like two of the people I met backstage actually became clients for my story pitch program. So I'm like, what just happened? Like when you show up after you've done the legwork and you put the work in of your own stuff, but when you do get those opportunities, I don't know why people are like so critical. Like I'll say yes to almost any podcast
Mhm.
because you don't know where that podcast is going to be in 5 years. You don't know who they are. They
Exactly.
wanted you on their show. Like talk to them. Who cares?
Yep.
And you may look up and it's one of the biggest shows like on the planet. How did you become? So when you started doing this, did you start like to break? So you get this first gig on Dr. Oz, and you're like, wait a minute. I bet that there's a method to this madness to go on
Mhm.
these other shows too. Like, how did you leverage Oz to get onto like the Today Show or Rachael Ray or something like that?
Yeah. So no, I think that's a great question. And so one of the things that I did is I got really strategic with what I talked about, right? I thought about, okay, I've got to come up with I've got to coin my own kind of segment idea, right? I think a lot of times people look at, okay, well, this person is doing this, right? I want to be like them. And you can't do that because there already is one of them. They already have that person, that role that's filled, and they use that person because they really like them. So you got to find your own niche. You got to find your own topic. And so after I got Oz and after I had been doing Fox and Friends for a while, I became really good friends with Clayton Morris, who was on Fox and Friends at that time. And me and him hit it off. We started doing a mastermind together. And so I really started doing Fox and Friends on a monthly basis. I had some national television under my belt, but I didn't have PR. I didn't have a publicist. So I actually hired a publicist at that time. And I said,
Mm,
I don't know how to break into this national level. She really, to be honest, she really hit me over the head with some hard stuff. And
mm,
I feel like I do that with my clients. I have to do a lot of level setting because if people come to me and they say, I want the Today Show. And I'm like, okay, you and everybody else in the world wants the Today Show and GMA. Everybody else wants that. What I need to get you to do is we need to have realistic expectations, but also really big dreams and goals. Like we can get you there, but this is how we're going to get you there. We need to come up with a strategy. We can't bring you from somebody who's never done television before on the Today Show. Like I need
mm.
to get you some local stuff. I'm going to build a sizzle reel. From that sizzle reel, we're going to bring you to regional television, which are things like Cheddar and Yahoo Finance and Schwab and, um, New York Living and New York One, like some of those regional shows. And then I'm going to build another sizzle reel. And then that sizzle reel, then we're going to build it and then we're going to go to national. So there's a strategy that I do to get our clients to that national stage. My publicist had to do the same thing with me. Like
Mm.
everybody wants this show.
Yeah.
Personal connections don't mean squat.
Mm.
I mean, they can. They'll open the emails, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to be able to get all of my clients on the show. So I really had to differentiate myself. What makes me different? Can I coin a segment? What show can I get it on? What
Mm.
show's going to like that segment? So I did this segment called From Trash to Cash. And I did it. I said, okay, who's going to love this? Hoda and Jenna are going to love this. How to find things around your house and around the world that I can sell on eBay or Poshmark or Craigslist for money that I can find for free around my house to make $1,000.
Mm.
So
That's
that's the
amazing.
segment that I did over and over and over again. Nobody else was doing that. What is something that you're different with that you can come and make creative and fresh, that's timely, that you can time it? How do you do this to pay for Christmas, for a summer vacation? What is the creative way? Don't copy anybody. You have to come up with your own way. And then you have to figure out what show is going to like it because you have to pitch each show individually different pitches for different shows, different narratives, different topics. You can't
Amazing.
pitch the third hour of the Today Show the same as Hoda and Jenna, the same as GMA, the same as GMA3. It's like they're all different shows.
Yeah, every segment is different,
Every
basically.
segment
Yeah,
is different. So
yeah.
that's really what I did.
It sounds like pitch. It's the same. It sounds like almost like the speaking industry to me a little bit
Yeah.
because
Each stage is
like
different.
each stage is different, each organizer is different, and like it's funny. Like I know a lot of people, and it is like people think that like, oh, if you know somebody, it's going to be good, but like that really doesn't matter because
Mhm.
like I might have a friend to introduce me to someone who owns a conference or something, but at
Mhm.
the same time, if I'm like, oh, I'm gonna, you know, let me do a keynote on storytelling at 5 o'clock, and they're like, oh, sorry, we got Bob that does that every year
Yeah.
or something like that, right? So it's like you have to look at like even when I go to FinCon, like when I spoke at FinCon, like of course you have some of the same elements of your personality and stuff that bleed through. You're always going to have a core something, but it changes. Like for them, it was like I can't even remember what I did for FinCon, but then podcast movement was like how to monetize your podcast. And then when I went to this real estate conference, the Dustin's real estate conference, it was all about breakthroughs. Like it was a motivational talk was what he was looking for. He was looking
Mhm.
for straight motivation, right? I went and did a mastermind recently for 7-figure entrepreneurs, and they were talking about team building.
Mhm.
And like it was like it's like sometimes some people tell you that hey, you should have one thing that you always do forever. And I'm like, yes, that's okay, but you really need like 3 or 4 good gimmicks
Yep.
that you can bend toward each little thing that you're like applying to do. And it sounds like TV and stuff kind of works the same way, doesn't it?
It's the same way, and you have to be flexible with it, and you also have to be really fast. So if breaking news hits, you know, if you're a branding expert and it's right around the Super Bowl, like you better be ready to go and on your
Mm.
toes, because you better believe that our entire team is studying brands, is studying branding, is watching what the commercials are, and we have a pitch ready to go at any second when right before, we're teeing you up a week before the Super Bowl hits so that we have
Mm.
segments ready for you already booked the day after Super Bowl. So like it's too late.
You're looking at opportunities on the calendar, opportunities in segments, and like basically, oh, this Shane would be a good fit for that, or
Mm-hmm.
Bob would be a good fit for that, and you're
Yep.
pitching those opportunities, and people have to be ready on these things to go. So it's not like scheduled way far in advance always. Sometimes it's
No.
just like they need 2 minutes, and you need to show up in New York like right now or something like that.
Right. So sometimes, and thankfully with Zoom and everything that happened during the pandemic. I mean, I don't want to say thankful for the pandemic, but that's one of the good things that came out of it is that TV segments had to learn how to do virtual segments. Everything
Yeah.
was in person. And I mean, I can't even tell you how many times I got a phone call like, you need to be in New York by tomorrow morning. And there was one time where I had to Uber through the night to get to New York City. And I didn't sleep at all. And then I showed up for a 7 a.m. call time. I did my makeup in the car. And I showed up to a
That's
TV
amazing.
segment on the Today Show because I got a call and there were no flights out. And I live, 5 hours outside the city. So I was like, well, I'm not driving. I don't feel comfortable. So I Ubered to New York City
Wow.
overnight. And, but those are the things that if you want to secure and be on national television regularly, you have to be comfortable with getting booked, getting bumped, being okay with, last minute schedules, cancellations, all of that. But I think a really important call out here too is a lot of people say like, oh, TV is dead, right? That's like, I don't even watch television anymore. I'm like, okay, cool. Love that for you.
Yeah.
But
Come on, people.
what happens when you get on TV is that still has that credibility piece to speaker bookers
Yeah.
specifically, to brands specifically. We have one client right now we're working with that she's working with a huge brand. And the reason why they booked her is because she's been a regular on Good Morning America, because we've gotten her on Good Morning America. That's the reason why they're working with her. I've gotten 7-figure brand deals because I've been on the Today Show.
Mm.
Brands care. Speaking
Yeah.
engagements care. If you're trying to get a book deal, they care. If you can say, and that was my strategy with getting so much television, I want to get all of my TV in so that when I go to pitch to Hachette or whatever book deal for my major book deal, I can say, I've already been on this and show. That way I can get a higher advance for my book deal and I can put more money into my PR efforts. And I think, when we're working with our authors now, it's a strategy. Like launching a best-selling book, it's not like throwing spaghetti at a wall. Like I can put out a strategy. These are the things you need to do the 4 months beforehand and the 2 months after to hit a USA Today or a New York Times bestseller. I know how to do it.
Yeah. So like when you do and also too, like TV, like I think people forget, well, one, it's a big deal. Like I've done national radio once. That was pretty cool. And like
you almost did the 700 Club once.
Almost did that once, but I was too busy. I was on the road 4 weeks out of every 5 there for a while speaking. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, I don't have time to do this, Lauren. Leave me alone.
I was like,
we'll come back.
I need you on the 700 Club.
Shane, get out there, do it.
Shane, I need you right now.
I'm like, I know, but I'm literally on stage while you're talking to me, right? But the credibility thing, I think people underplay a little bit because I think people get frustrated, like they don't know how people get on TV. They're like, screw those people on TV. I think that's some sour grapes a little bit when sometimes people gripe about that. But like, I know this, when I was pulling up pictures of me podcasting or speaking at small events, it was kind of like, all right, this guy looks like he might be a speaker. But when I pull up pictures now of me standing in front of 10,000 people, 8,000 people, and these are these big things, like when I walk into a mastermind or something that I'm doing at a small event, and you have this picture of you standing on a stage with 10,000 people hanging on your every word, it's immediately over. Like it's just one slide, one picture can create that credibility. And I would say it's the same thing. Like if your advertising is you sitting with Rachael Ray or you on the Today Show or you're as featured on is all these legit things, not just things people are piecing together. Like it's got to be like there's got to be more trust built immediately, just because like it's like when a speaker gets up, it's like nobody knows how you got up there. They just know that for some reason you're one of the 10 people out of the 1,000 people in this room that got to say words into a microphone, right? So there's just automatic story in their head of, well, this guy had to do something. And it's kind of the same thing. If I'm like, hey, welcome to the stage, Lauren. Lauren has been on Rachael Ray, Good Morning America. I don't know how to do that. Like, it's like there's a built-in trust there. Like, she must be somebody important. She must be something because they've been on the actual show.
Exactly. And if you think about it, like we can look at stats, right? So I can put a client on Good Morning America on a Friday morning and know that 5 million people watched it, right? But then we also can look and see that segment also got put on their YouTube. It also got put on their TikTok. It also got put on their Instagram. It also got put on their Facebook. So when I was a regular on TV, we didn't have TikTok wasn't big, right? The last time I went on national television, actually, it wasn't even that long ago. I actually was on TV on Monday, but that was court TV for something else. Wait,
what? You're on court TV? What?
I still do for some reason I do television for like influencer stories. Like when influencers go rogue, like they call me and I do like all of these like
to be in the jury to convict them on court TV.
I don't know how I got called up, but I love them. It's so fun. Like I get to do like when the Ruby Frankie case broke, like, when like mommy bloggers get arrested, I get called. So anyway, That's been
incredible.
Fun. Yeah, it's been fun.
That's the best niche you could ever get into.
I love it. They're like PR expert, Lauren Cobello from Leverage with Media PR. And I'm like, hi, so I enjoy it. I thoroughly enjoy it. But the last time I was on Rachael Ray, I think was maybe 3 years ago. Today's Show was about 4 years ago. TikTok wasn't even as big as it is now. You're getting an additional 5-6 million views from their social media that, I didn't get when I was on Fox and Friends 10 years ago,
Yeah.
So, and then you're also getting
There's a long tail to it now.
There's a very long tail to it. And that credibility is huge. You get to create speaker reels and when you're a speaker and they're looking at the speaker profiles, they're looking at what you can do as a speaker, but also to add like that you've been on GMA, Today's Show, Fox News, CNN, Wall Street Journal, like all of these places. I think it adds you to the cream of the crop as well when you're looking at who's going to be chosen.
I MC this event that Ed Milet speaks at. So like I
Mhm.
have to introduce Ed Milet, and his introduction video is the longest introduction video of all time. Like he
Mhm.
actually has a joke about it. He's like, "All right, that was ridiculous." You know,
Yeah.
he pretty much acknowledges that how, but it literally is like 5 straight minutes of every TV show, every podcast,
Mhm.
anything he has ever, and it's really well done actually the way they've got it designed because it's like him kind of talk. He's not even talking. It's just like corporate music playing in the background, and every once in a while he'll chime through, and then it'll be him, and then Hoda, and then him, and then somebody else, and then him, and then Tucker
I
Carlson, and
love
then
that.
him and Lewis Howes, and it's almost obnoxious, but like it's legit. Like at the end of it, you're just like, okay, well, this guy's talked to everyone. I should
Right.
probably listen to like whatever he's
What
going to
he's going to
say. Like,
say. I love that.
yeah. So how do you like just from a high level? Okay.
Mhm.
So you're an entrepreneur. I've actually I wrote a book. It's coming out soon. I don't know when because proofreading is hard and it takes a long
Oh my
time.
gosh.
But the publishers are doing it.
Yes.
But like so you've got a person who has a book. Let's just start
Right.
there, right? And or like we have a mutual friend that you work with, and he
Yep.
has his book that just coming out, right? So like, what does it look like? Like this is someone who maybe never been on TV, maybe they're a YouTuber, maybe they're a podcaster. You know, they've got a little something going, and they're like, hey, I really want to go this PR route, and I really want to put a lot of effort into making my book um, a good thing.
Yeah.
Like, where do you start? Like, what do you
You
do?
do you want to like workshop where you're at and we can kind of just walk through and do like kind of what I would do with your book?
Sure.
Because we could, I think that would be kind of cool.
So my book is probably coming out in October, I think, or something
Okay.
like that. So it's like, okay, you know that I'm a speaker, you know that I'm a podcaster,
Hmm.
and I'm a online marketer, and I've got this
Okay.
book coming out, and I want it to be big. So where would we
Right.
start?
Okay. So the first thing I would start is like figuring out what your goal is, right? Is like, do you want this to sell a certain amount of books? Is it impact driven? Do you want to help increase your speaking engagements? Like, what's the goal?
The goal is to get this book into as many people's hands at cost for leads
Okay. So,
because it's
right.
it's story driven. It's my story plus case studies and teaching people, you know, what we did basically.
So that's perfect. So a lot of times we have entrepreneurs that come in that want to do a lead gen book, right? Where they're doing lead gen stuff where it's just like I have my fourth book coming out in 2025, and that's just a lead gen book, right? To get people into the sales funnel and things like that. So in this case, for somebody that, let's say, wanted to do a lead gen book, you would be focusing a lot more on entrepreneurial publications. You would be focusing a lot more on PR strategies. Now, if let's say we're focusing, I'm going to switch gears just a little bit. If your focus was to be like, let's say a USA Today bestseller, a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of people have this goal to be a USA Today or a New York Times bestseller, right? To sell as
Yeah.
many copies as possible. One thing that people don't understand is that there's this thing called Circana Book Scan, right? And they're the ones that track every single one of your books. So, for example, for your book, Circana Book Scan is something to be tracked as well, even for a self-published book and things like that. You want to pay close attention to this anytime you're launching a book, because you want to make sure that whatever books that you're selling are counted towards this book scan number. And this is important for one reason only. If you want to get a traditional book deal in the future, they're going to look at these book sales now on this book that you're putting out now as a lead gen book, and it's going to help you get a traditional book deal in a large advance next time.
And if it was of course, if you could play this game, like, hey guys, let's turn this into a USA bestseller or something, and then turn it into lead gen because we own everything, right? But then you could put on there like New York Times bestseller, US, and that's like the first step is pushing the book sales.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. So you have to you have to make sure that everything is tracked through BookScan, and you do that through a certain ways. So I would say traditional book PR agencies, and this is actually why I started the agency, is because I think traditional book PR agencies are still dated back like 15 years ago. They are very slow. They look at book sales and, it's all really good, but they don't understand the mind of an entrepreneur. So when you're looking at the mind of an entrepreneur, we're looking at lead funnels, we're looking at ROI, we're looking at lead gen, we're looking at social media stats, we're looking at all of these different types of things, right? We have to kind of put everything together into one strategy and one brand strategy overall. So for you, I would say, okay, we're looking at lead gen. So let's put together a strategy on how we're going to put together a launch strategy, a launch team. Who's going to help us bring in the most amount of leads? How are we going to track all of these books through Circana BookScan to make sure that they're tracked properly? So that I see a lot of people that don't do this the right way, and then they go to get a book deal and they've sold 10,000 copies of their first book, but there's no tracking on that. Like there's no way to know that you've sold. They're like, well, we can't see that in BookScan, so we don't trust you. So making sure that all of that.
And it doesn't take as many books bought as you think to get on those lists. I've heard
USA Today,
like
we just had an author hit with like 4,200 copies.
What? Listen,
Yep.
my audience is big enough to sell 4,200 copies.
Exactly.
Hold on
So you just have to do it the right way and strategically to hit those lists, right? And so we do that for our authors. Is we have a system that we do to funnel these books through the right way, make sure that they're, counted the right way. And there's a lot of companies that do this, that do it. It's like a black market strategy, and we do it the legit way, right?
Yeah. So I've heard of I will not name names, but someone we might mutually know. Like it's like the people who are like, "Hey, want to order 500 of my book and give them to your people and let me come on your podcast," and like stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? It's like they're clearly gaming the system. I've got a speaker buddy. He writes a book every other year. He's a very high paid speaker. He makes like 40 grand a talk, right? And but his strategy is basically take a year to write a book, put it in the funnel, get on the New York Times bestseller list. His speaker agency then takes the New York Times bestselling book and the topic to the corporate gigs, and then New York Times bestseller walks on stage. There he is.
That's actually a very well-known strategy to hit the list, is selling books as a speaker to speak. We're actually working with a client right now doing that. Selling it, in exchange, 250, 500 copies, 1,000 copies in exchange for a workshop. And then you just have to make sure that the ordering goes through properly through the right channels. That's the part that people don't understand.
Writing this book too, like this is so fascinating because I didn't need a book to do what I did for the first 10 years of my business. Right. And then I think that I was working with Pat Flynn for a little while. We were talking about this, and he was always asking me, like, when are you going to write a book? And I'm like, I have made money without a book my whole life, and I don't want to write a book, and I'm a talker. I'm not a writer. You know what I'm saying? And he was just finally like, you are not legit until you have a book.
Exactly.
He just, to my face, he's like, you're not legit.
And he's writing his right now. He's writing one right now.
Yeah. He had to rewrite the whole thing.
I know.
At the last minute. Oh my gosh. Like it was like trauma, like PTSD trauma, when he started having to do that. But like now that I have it, I've got it. I mean, the manuscript's done. It's just they're going through all the proofreading and stuff. It's damn cool to have a book.
It is.
I mean, it feels like the possibilities are endless, and it feels like it does make you feel super legit when you tell people like, well, here's my book. And then you realize like 1% of people will ever try, and 1% of those people will ever finish.
Yep.
And you're like, that's 1% of 1% human activity.
And you are an author. Insane. You can now add that to your list.
Yes.
I'll tell you this much, and then we'll get back into like what I think you should do with your strategy. But this is where I think most people fail, is they, especially entrepreneurs, because they think, oh, like I have this website and I have this podcast and I'll do this. It's like, you have just spent 10 months, a year of your life giving yourself to this project, this book. This is the single greatest, most amazing marketing opportunity of your career. And you're not going to invest PR strategy. You're just going to throw it out there. Just like, let's see if it works.
For podcast listeners, Lauren just threw a book over her shoulder into the background.
And it was my book. That was my book. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you're just going to like throw and so I always say, like, this is the time, if you've ever had a time in your business, to invest in the marketing of your company, because one, the media will listen the most when you have a book come out. They will listen the most. This is like the single most time when the media is listening. They're like, oh, there's a book coming out. They're like, boop, like they're booking, right? They're like, oh, awesome, book
Right.
coming out. So that's the first thing. And so many people don't invest in that time because they're like, oh, well, I'll have it and it's not that, it's like you've just spent like a year of your life. Like, don't you want to make it like, as an entrepreneur, put so much of your effort into helping it grow your company, the
Yeah.
strategy
I mean,
piece of
my
it.
goal has always been, well, we've got a 3-book strategy like in the future, but like
Mhm.
the strategy has always been like, if we're going to put this much effort into this, it has to become the top of the funnel and open all the doors,
Right.
right? Like
Yep,
it has
exactly.
to be a part of like, it has to be thought of in everything we do. Cause if you get this in people's hands,
Hmm.
it's over.
Yep.
You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? Okay. So tracking is the first thing to think
Yep.
of through
Yep.
this
So you're thinking about
Circana
tracking.
thing.
Yeah, we're looking
Okay.
at like we're starting usually 4 months beforehand. We're looking at the trends. We're looking at what are the people that are going to read your book talking about? Where are they reading? Where are they watching? Not so much as where are they watching, because we want to get you out of that bubble. We want to get you out of the
Mhm.
podcast bubble. We want to get you out of the people that know you and get you into an audience
Right.
that doesn't know you yet. So we're looking at, people consume content in many different ways. They read, they watch, they touch, and they listen. So we want to hit all four of those categories. So we want to get you on podcasts. We want to get you on TV. We want to get so that they can actually, touch the book, obviously, by getting it in their hands. And then we want them to be able to listen to you on the radio. And so we're focusing on, and by reading, obviously, print articles. And so
Yeah.
we're kind of laying out a strategy of like, what are the overarching themes of the book? What are the topics in the media right now that we can push you into? And then we're tackling it from the back down. So we're looking at, okay, you know, getting you into entrepreneur or getting you into Forbes. And we do all what's called earned media. There's a lot of these pay to play companies right now that
Oh yeah.
you
I
will
get hit up
go,
all the time.
oh
Yep.
yeah, for $199, I can get you in this. For $5,000, I can get you a company in Forbes or an article in Forbes. And actually, what they're doing is they're going to an SEO company and they're signing up for a reselling service, and then they're doubling the fees, and then they're charging you the double price. And so
What?
there's a ton of well-known even PR companies working with well-known entrepreneurs, and this is how they're doing it. So they can
Hmm.
guarantee you coverage. But the problem is with these is they can't get you once you get a whole bunch of these pay to play like TV shows and articles, a real news organization will ignore you because they're like, all they've done is paid for all of their coverage. And so
Right.
we focus on earned media, earned television shows. You can't get on you can't pay to get on GMA today, all the shows that we work with.
Right.
We get you on those. We work on op-eds, which are very good in selling books, working with op-ed editors, getting excerpts from the book in Entrepreneur
So
and
really
Forbes.
so it's kind of like if you look through the topics or something, or there's something interesting in there and it's
Hmm.
aligned. Like I'm just, this is
Yep.
not my book and I'm just pulling this out of my head right now. But like it's almost like, oh, like do you know Jeff Woods? He used to work
Yeah.
at the one thing. He's writing a book about AI, right?
Yep.
And like so like it's like, okay, well, AI is hot. And then maybe there's this one chapter in his book where he really says something epic about something about AI. And then
Hmm.
somebody wants to do that. Now you can start actually looking for the segments that dial into that one thing in the book. But all he needs is that 3-minute segment
Yep.
to be like, oh, by the way, get the book. The book's out now. They'll flash the book on the
Exactly.
screen or whatever. Yeah.
Exactly. Yep. And then we're always watching for like what's trending in the media right now. So we have an author, his name is Dr. Marcus Collins. He's a culture. His book is called For the Culture. His book is all about culture. So we're always watching in the media, like what's going on in Olympic culture, what's going on in the culture during the election, what's going on in culture when it comes to marketing, when it comes to this, to that, watching what's happening. And then as soon as we see something, we're pitching them like immediately.
Yeah.
And we
So
always
you're not really pitching the book. But you have a collection of ideas that spring from the book, and those are what latch on to the opportunities if you know what you're looking for.
Exactly. So we are
Ah,
always ebbing and flowing with what's going on in the world. And this
yeah.
is how I personally got all of my media attention is
Mm,
it's called newsjacking. It's a very kind of like well-known term in the media industry, is knowing what's going on, knowing, okay, inflation is going on, the stock prices are going up, entrepreneurs are burnt out, AI is taking over the world, what can I do to insert myself into the trending conversations right now? But then when the book comes out, we're looking, and for like the 2 weeks around the book launch, we're actually doing like a solid book pitch. Like this book is coming out right now. And that's when we're doing the solid book pitch, where we're doing media tours around the country and things like that.
interesting.
So it's a different strategy. A traditional book PR agency is pitching only the book and holding all of the coverage for the 2 weeks that the book comes out. And I think as entrepreneurs, we don't want to sit and wait and pay a retainer for no coverage month after month after month. We want action. We want to like brand build and get our name out there every single month. So we just get you as much coverage as possible
Yeah, the book
as
doesn't go anywhere. It's always there. Like it's always relevant, just not just at the launch. You know what I'm saying?
exactly.
Like if
And we're
you,
working on
yeah,
a pre-order strategy, pre-order campaign. How do we get as many pre-orders in there and then make sure that they're counted appropriately on the book scan data? And then, working with getting people on podcasts and getting people on YouTube shows. We have a client going on. I don't know if you know who Tommy G is. He's like a phenomenal YouTuber who does like real life documentaries. He goes into like Detroit and drugs and, you
yeah.
know, uh, we're working with him. He's one of the largest YouTubers and
Is YouTube good? You know, like so we go back in time or
Mhm.
local TV and all that, and it's still relevant. Is YouTube also like a good bridge when people are putting a lot of video content, like to create sizzle reels and to do things like that to show these things, or is that not as
Yeah,
good
yeah, for
as actual
sure.
TV?
Yeah, for sure. YouTube is great. And I always recommend that when a book comes out, that authors are doing a book specific, uh, like if you have a podcast, doing like a book specific podcast series where you're talking about the
Yeah,
book, like the chapters of the book, and inviting guests on and assigning them topics to talk about so that you're talking about the book, the whole, like,
a
let's
long
say
time,
two
right?
months, 3 months after the book comes out. That's what you're talking about. And they're just like continuously getting content and the book fed to
Do you
them
remember?
in
Do you
your
remember when
podcast.
Brendan Bouchard came out? Do you remember when
Hmm.
Brendan Bouchard came out and he
I do.
read every chapter of his book?
Yep.
Like every, I was that was the most that I honestly of all the podcasts I've ever listened to, that was the most riveted I have
Yeah.
ever been about a podcast. I was waiting for him
Right.
to
You were
bring that
waiting for the next
next chapter
chapter.
out.
Yep.
Yes, and then at the end of it, he was just pitching the book, and of course, it became a New York Times bestseller. He's Brendan
Exactly.
Bouchard, but like at the same time, I thought that was the most brilliant thing I'd ever seen do. Hormozy does that. Alex Hormozy does that too. Like his stuff's crazy. He reads his book. The audio's free. There's a
Hmm.
video that goes with every chat. He is constantly hammering all of his book
Well,
stuff
and
all the time.
I, I know, and we have that team that did his book launch. We bring in on some projects because they're
Mm,
independent now. And so the team that did his book launch now is coming into some of our projects. And there's things that I'm like, why wasn't this on BookScan? Like,
yeah,
like we could
yeah,
have
no
made it,
doubt.
So like there's
Yeah,
things that I understand that people don't care. Like they might not care to be a New York Times bestseller. Totally cool. Like I get it. You want to give it away
but it
for
doesn't
free.
hurt.
It doesn't
You know,
hurt. But
it
I'm
can
always
only help.
thinking like strategically down the road. You might not care now, but maybe in 20 years when you don't want to work as hard and you can get a $2 million book deal, you might be like, oh man, I wish I had counted those for New York Times bestseller. Right. I
Yeah,
wish, I
yeah.
wish that I had thought that through a little bit more.
Do
And
pitches go easier if you get to say New York Times bestseller?
oh yeah,
I mean, it sounds like they
100%.
would be like 10 times easier. And it
A
doesn't sound like
hundred
the
percent.
game is that hard to play, you know?
It isn't. I mean, it's a game. I mean, it's hard. It's launching a book is hard work. but you have to be a good partner in the process, right? When you're working with somebody like us, we're a boutique agency. So we are invested. Like our authors become dear friends of ours. We are invested in your project and in your growth. And we even bring people on before their books are done. And I help them like get it solidified, make sure it's the right book for their brand. You know, I love what I do so much to get them. And actually, you know, this business was started from, you know, that same night that we met. That the idea of this company was started from that night, from Tom at FinCon.
Okay, so I'm gonna tell the story because I love this story. I think I might have mentioned it earlier. But like, so we all are at FinCon, okay? And for those of you who follow me online, you know that I like a good cigar. That's my favorite thing in the world. Is just a bunch of friends sitting around, and the cigar is in between everyone governing all the conversation. Right? Like it's just like because if you put it out, because that's what I love about cigars. My favorite thing about cigars is when you get like friends in a place.
Yep.
Like a cigar has to be paid attention to. It is like a friend. It's like a lover. You have to if you don't pay attention to it, it'll go out.
Yep.
Right. And if it goes out and you're the guy in the middle of the thing, like you're talking too much, just shut up, people. Right. You know what I mean? So we all, I had went to Austin and I was like, I don't even remember. I brought it up. I was like, we should go to a cigar bar. And I don't know who found it, but we found this like massive, crazy big. I've never been in one since. And I've been in some good ones. And I was like, but that place is my favorite thing. And we had the best night. I mean, we all just sat around.
Then we went to the wine bar afterwards.
We went to the wine bar after and we were eating charcuterie at 2 a.m. You know what I'm saying? And like, it was just absolutely amazing. So during this, and this is where the magic happens too. It's not at the conference. It's not at the talk. It's like, so you all were talking and you were just like, I should start a PR agency.
Well,
and like,
I thought to myself, because I thought to myself, what I'm really passionate about, you know, I wasn't passionate about personal finance anymore. And I was still doing television. And I said, if I could teach people how to build $1 million companies off of their books, like what I did, using television and press the right way, I would just be so happy. I would be like the happiest. And that was the passion behind this company was, you know, and I refuse to kind of grow beyond. We have 20 clients. That's our limit. I have a staff. We have 7 full-time employees. I have, you know, a full-time executive assistant. I have a COO. We have 4 full-time publicists. Our publicists only work with 5 clients at a time. They're all super senior. They've been in the industry a long time. We knock it out of the park. And like results for me are the number one thing that like, you know, I get all of our clients like a billboard in Times Square when they come out and I fly to go see them. And like, I celebrate and I just feel like so blessed that I get to do this because it has literally changed my life. You know, when I wrote my last book, my company went from me making like $125,000 a year to $750,000 a year with that book.
Man, that's crazy. That's incredible.
And so,
yeah,
if I could teach, and that's what we're doing, teaching people how to use their books to like scale and brand and launch to the next level. And I love the evolution too. Like I've been thinking about that a lot lately too. It's like, you know, like Flip Lifestyle and other things. We've always been the recurring revenue people. That's just what we do. You know what I mean? And like, it's always like, can I get 1,000 members? Can I get 2,000 members? Right.
Can I get, you know what I'm saying? And like, I found myself in the last year evolving a lot more to, man, I really just want to go deep with like a smaller group of people. It can be for a time. It doesn't have to be like forever, but that seems more, I love what you said there. I would just be so happy. Like, I would just be so happy if like, you know, it's like every 12 weeks I help X people do Y task. Yeah. And then it's like, I love you guys. Go have fun now. Yeah. Next. Right? No. Like, yeah, it's the evolution of that I'm finding in a lot of people that have been in the game a long time. You know what I'm saying?
But what is it that makes us like, I feel like I was holding myself back from allowing myself to evolve, right? Because I had been branded and had this company for 16 years, but I wasn't enjoying myself anymore. It wasn't filling my cup.
I get it.
Yeah. And so I said, Tom Sylvester, a friend of ours, was like, Lauren, like you were made for this. Like, this is what your skill is. Just take a bet on yourself. And I was like, okay. And so a lot of people don't know this, but I actually sold my house to start this company. I sold my house. I'm a
Wow.
single mom of four. I sold my house. I downsized. I moved into a tiny rental and I started this company from scratch. And we grew into seven figures within 10 months. And we've been
It's
able
amazing.
to service people, that are beyond who I would have even thought that we could service, celebrities
Yeah.
and I am so proud of what we've built. And it all comes down to the culture of how passionate I am about how books can grow and build brands and how you can
Yeah.
use it strategically. It's not just about, I just need to get a book out there. It's like, how do I strategically use this book to grow and bring my brand to the next level? Whether that's speaking engagements, whether that's lead gen, that's why I started with that question with you of like, well, what's the goal?
Yeah,
Like,
what's the book for? It's the first. I'm learning from you, right, in this thing that I've never really thought. I mean, I always thought of it as the top of a funnel, right? But like if you want to be on TV, if you want to grow your brand, if you want to get clients, it's kind of like the first domino, really. It's like, man, if you get that book done, or if you've got a book that you're not using correctly, you can really make it the first domino to make big things happen. You know
it's
what I'm
so
saying?
true. It's
So
so
cool.
true.
It's
Yep.
amazing.
So true.
Okay, I feel
Yep.
like we're going to talk for 6 hours if we keep going because this is like wait, we're like getting into like mastermind weeds
I
at this
know.
point. You know what I'm
Well, I
saying?
gave you all
But
my
this was
secrets.
amazing. I did not anticipate. Honestly, I was like, we're going to talk about TV, and I was like, wait a minute, a book? You took me on a journey there. It was a
Yeah.
wild ride. Well, listen, if anybody out there is listening to like one, I love you. I highly
Oh, I
recommend
love you
you. Anybody that
too.
wants to, yeah, anybody wants to do this, you're amazing. But like, how did they go? Someone's got a book or they're writing a book and they want to like think about how to get it out to the world. How can they find you?
Yeah, so our website is leveragewithmedia.com, and there's a link on there if they want to schedule a call with me to go and schedule on there. And if they want to see some of our results, they can go, leverage with media PR on Instagram. And then my personal Instagram is Lauren_Cobello. They can find me on there and just hear like some of my tips and tricks on there. And yeah, they can follow along. But I always love to meet new people and answer any questions that people have. I'm very passionate, if you can't tell, about what I do, and just want to see more people, do the right thing with their books and not let them flop. That's like the worst thing as an author to like put this
Yeah.
work out and it
No
just
one
like
bought this.
bombs. You're like,
Why
what
did I
did I
work 2 years
do?
on that? All right.
Don't let
Thank
it
you, Lauren. You're
happen.
amazing.
Thank you.
All right, y'all. That wraps up my interview with my good friend Lauren Cobello. Man, I just got learned. I just got learning right there, guys. That was incredible. Like to think about taking a book and turning it into like a promotional rocket ship that can take you on to YouTube channels, podcasts, TV shows, and everything else. Like it's crazy not to have a book. I'm actually getting ready to start writing my second book. I've got like 3 or 4 books that I want to write. After you write the first one, it's kind of like an addiction. It's like when people get tattoos and they just keep getting tattoos. Once you write a book, I just want to like keep writing a book. But check out everything Lauren has, man. If you've got a book out there and you want to promote it, head over to her website, leveragewithmedia.com. I hope you guys got as much out of that conversation as I did. But right now, I'm going to go work on my PR strategy for my book. We'll catch you next time right here on the Shane Sam Show. Until then, get out there, work hard, light it up. We'll see you then.